Let's go to roll call.
Ms. Romero?
Here.
Mr. Cunningham? Here. Mr. Durham?
Aye. Here.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Fimbres? Here. Mr. Kozaczyk? Here. Mayor Rothschild?
Here. Item 2,
Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
the invocation will be given by Reverend Aisa and Aisa Guadillo Gonzalez from the First Christian Church. That's a mouthful.
It is.
After the invocation, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Source of life, may your presence fill this place, centering those gathered here in your goodness and peace. Guide us in compassionate listening and speech that honors the humanity of one another, so that together the work done here will move our city evermore towards practices that are life-giving and full of justice, and that bring dignity to all. Amen.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 2D.
Appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's Communication number 345, dated October 22, is received into and made part of the record. May I have a motion to approve the appointments in the report? Got a motion and a second. The appointments are for Andrew Cook to the El Presidio Historic Zone Advisory Board, Kevin Dumas to the Veterans Affairs Committee, Rebecca Field, Casey Shug, Parker Filer, and Allison Meadow to the Landscape Advisory Committee, and the reappointment of Ron Van Omeren to the Landscape Advisory Committee. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on those? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, all of you are appointed. If any of you are here tonight, or even if you're not here tonight, we want to thank you for your service. All of these people serve with dedication and give us great and good guidance towards important matters that we must hear. Let's go to item 3.
Mayor and Council reports, summary of current events.
All right, City Manager's Communication number 346, dated October 22, is received into and made part of the record. This time has been scheduled to allow members of the Mayor and Council to report on current events. Does any council member have anything to report at this time? Councilmember Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to invite the community to 2 different events that are amazing and unique to Tucson. First, this coming Sunday, October 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., the community is invited to enjoy another Ciclovia Tucson. Ciclovia was born in 2010, but came to South 12th Avenue first in 2017, and it's happening again 2019. It's going to be a fun-filled activity for the entire community, and Ciclovia, for those that are not familiar with it, is we close down streets. We close down streets for pedestrians, bicyclists, and roller skaters, and any other except cars. What started as a small annual event with just about 5,000 participants has now grown to a biannual program with a combined 70,000 participants and growing. Again, join us this Sunday, October 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And Ciclovia La Doce, providing 3.75 miles of car-free, carefree city streets for Tucsonans of all ages to enjoy. If you have any questions, please call 261-8777 to learn a little bit more about the route. But it will be starting from Julian Wash on 12th Avenue all the way to Mission Manor Park. Another event that's beautiful and growing and making Tucson known around the world is our annual All Souls Procession. That is coming on Sunday, November 3rd from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. The final site will be Congress Street and Avenida del Convento. The procession is an enormous community-created, non-commercial event to creatively honor and celebrate our dead. open to all cultures, all traditions, all art forms, and all people, and it's free to participate. Everyone who attends is responsible for helping to create a safe, positive, celebratory, and respectful experience for themselves and everyone else. This guide is intended to help create that experience for yourself and 100,000 other people who will be on the streets of Tucson with you. Please help us reach as many of those 100,000 people as we can by sharing this information. Again, it's this Sunday, next Sunday, November 3rd from 4 to 10 p.m. Call our office at 791-4040 to get additional information about the route. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let's see, we're Councilmember Fimbres.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You got something, Paul? Go ahead.
Yeah. This Saturday, October 26th, I'm very excited to bring Pima County Animal Care Center's free vaccine clinic to Ward 3's Donna Ligon Center. The first 300 cats or dogs will receive free shots, dewormer, a microchip, and flea and tick medication. Doors open at 8:30, and we expect a large turnout, so get there early. Thanks to the vets at PAC and the great park staff at Donna Ligon Center for hosting.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Your Honor, I just wanted to remind people, I'm pretty sure I've got the date. Let me make sure I have the date right. Saturday, October 26th is the Tucson Firefighters Chili Cook-Off and the GPP Superhero Fun Run. And that is at, trying to find, it's part of the Greater Purpose Project, the cook-off, including the Patrick Taylor Memorial Super Fun Run. This is a party for everyone, and it is in memory of former Tucson firefighter Patrick Taylor. There'll be 24 themed chili booths, live music, kid zone, truck. It supports the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation and the Greater Purpose Project. So come out and join us for the annual Tucson Firefighters Chili Cook-Off, Saturday, October 26th from 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the crazy thing right here is I can't find the location. Chief, can you help me out? Reed Park. Reed Park Band Shell, the George Demeester Center.
Councilmember Fimbres.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Friday, October 11th, 30th Annual LULAC FBI Community Service Awards luncheon took place at the Viscount Suites. Individuals were honored for their work and efforts to better the lives of those in the community. Stephen Farina, Special Agent in Charge with the FBI, delivered the keynote address and handed out the FBI Community Service Awards. Mayor Jonathan Rothschild, Vice Mayor Shirley Scott, and Councilmember Regina Romero were recognized for their work on the council. Many city employees were also recognized for their work, including Brent Dennis, Parks and Rec Director, Victor Altamirano, James Carroll, Mike Corral, Sean Critchley, Captain John Strader, Lieutenant Anthony De La Osa, Sergeant Will Corrales, Officer Scooby Fernandez, Victor Lopez, Phil Miller, Ruben Quintanilla, Andy Squire, Terry Norwitzki, Lupita Robles, Mark Kerr, and Mary Kuchar. Congratulations to all who were honored. Thank you to the Viscount's Hotel for hosting another great event. On Tuesday, October 15th, I attended the ribbon cutting for the remodeling of the McDonald's. Congratulations to Roger Conchola and his team on a job well done. The location employs 50 employees and will be able to expand its operation with the remodeling. On Thursday, October 17th, I had the privilege of speaking at the Union Pacific 4104 Big Boy train arrival in Tucson. It was great to see a big crowd, including Mayor Bob Waka, out for the arrival. The train, which was built in 1941, and the last Big Boy train still in commercial use. Congratulations to Ken Carls with the Southern Arizona Transportation Museum and Union Pacific for their successful event. On Thursday, October 17th, I attended the 10th annual Old Pueblo Community Services Lend a Hand luncheon that took place at the TCC. The Tucson Homeless Work Program was lauded for its success. I want to congratulate Tom Lewicki, CEO of Pueblo Community Services, and the staff for their successful event. On Friday, October 18th, I had the privilege of speaking to the Pima Medical Institute's graduation class of 2019. At their ceremony at the TCC Music Hall, there were 240 people who will receive their degrees from Pima Medical Institute's various medical programs. It was great to see so many striving to better themselves through education. Education is the key to success. Congratulations to the graduates from Pima Medical Institute's class of 2019. Also on Friday, October 18th, more than 3,000 kids and their families came out for the Quincy Douglas Trunk and Treat Halloween Spooktacular at the Quincy Douglas Neighborhood Center. A great time was had by all. Congratulations to the organizers and Jerry Neely and his staff at the Quincy Douglas Neighborhood Center for their work on the Halloween event. On the 19th at Quincy Douglas, the 10th annual Kings of Cooking event took place. The event brought together many African-American groups with organizations, as well as raising money for scholarships and awareness on issues concerning African-American youth. I want to thank the Kings of Cooking organizers, as well as Jerry Neely and his staff at the Quincy Douglas Center. Also on Saturday, October 19th, the staff at the Santa Rita Rec Center held their annual Halloween party. I want to congratulate Terry Nowitzki on the staff at Santa Rosa for their successful event, and I had the privilege of speaking at the 25th annual GSAAC 9th and 10th Cavalry Dinner, which was held at the Dunbar Auditorium, which took place Saturday evening, October 19th. The dinner is a fundraiser for the Buffalo Soldier Group, for which the monies go toward educational scholarships, and for the Buffalo Soldier Memorial, which is being built at the Quincy Douglas Neighborhood Center. Congratulations to the Buffalo Soldiers for their 25th annual dinner.
Okay, let's move on to item 5.
4, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, item 4. We hate to forget item 4.
City Manager's report, summary of current events.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just wanted to let you know that our city's chief building official, Creighton Trevian, represented us at the International Code Council's National Conference in Vegas today, and Tucson's Planning and Development Services Department was welcomed and also recognized by the Major Jurisdiction Committee for the efforts in not only what Planning and Development Services has done here in Tucson, but we've actually gone out and helped others craft their systems to help them more efficient and so forth. So hats off to Planning and Development Services. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Item 5.
Liquor license applications, report from City Manager.
Excuse me, City Manager's communication number 348, dated October 22, is received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, please read the liquor license agenda.
Your Honor, on this evening's liquor license agenda, under item 5B, we have 3 requests for new license. Under item 5C, we have 7 requests for special events. Staff has indicated that all the applicants are in compliance with city requirements. However, items 5B1 and 3 have written opposition filed against them, so those will be considered separately. An appropriate motion would be to forward item 5B2 and item 5C 1 through 7 to the State Liquor Board with a recommendation of approval.
So moved.
All right, we've got that motion to send all the liquor licenses other than those 2 that have objections to the state for approval. That motion is second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so it's 5E1, Mr. Clerk?
5B1, Your Honor, it's located in
5B1.
Ward 2.
And that's Ward 2. All right, Councilman Cunningham?
Hey, is anybody here to speak on this item? Yeah.
Got a person? Could you
Thank
come?
you. That's the applicant. So
All right.
I just want to make there's a couple of objections in the record, but we actually spoke to all the neighbors, and it seems that most of those objections at this point have been quelled. I do have some concerns about some of the saturation in the area, but also we need to keep in mind that that's been a really challenging situation for all the businesses nearby, considering the construction over the last year. So in speaking with the neighbors, with the owner, both in my office but also today, I'm gonna recommend approval for this liquor license. I think that they're working in good faith, and I move that we recommend it for approval.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and second to approve item 5B1. Any other Conversation on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. 5B3, is that Ward 5?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Councilmember Fembres, it's yours.
Mr. Mayor, I have some cards here for and against, so I'm going to have two people speak from each group.
Okay.
And first I'll have Arnoldo C. Montiel come up and speak on behalf of, in support of the city-wide produce.
Okay, and sir, just so you know, for all the speakers on the liquor licenses, it's 3 minutes, so you'll see the light go red in 3
Yes,
minutes.
sir.
Okay.
No problem. Mr. Mayor, members of the ward, good afternoon. My name is Arnoldo Montiel. I am from Nogales, and I am here to speak for Mr. Aurelio Villa, which is the owner of the produce house. I've known this family for 60 years. I'm 75, so made that clear right now. My dad and Mr. Villa's dad were together in the same neighborhood. They both came from a second and third grade. They both completed a wonderful, wonderful history with Nogales. We're talking about Nogales in a very sensible way, because Nogales is a very difficult place to even run a business. But these two gentlemen, my dad and Mr. Villa, were successful in producing two wonderful supermarkets, and they continued. My store closed after 73 years with my dad. After 9/11, there was a lot of problems with the line. I was 150 feet from the border. So that's another story. But the Villa family continued to progress and to flourish. They are wonderful community leaders. They are very successful as far as implementation of groceries. And he hires 85 people in Nogales. And what he's going to do in Tucson, given the opportunity to work, he's going to have a lot of people working for Tucson, and above all, serving the community of Tucson. I have experience directly with Mr. Villa as far as partnerships with helping with the senior center. I volunteer as the administrator of the senior center in Nogales. I've been doing that for 5 years, and for 5 years, Mr. Villa has been very successful in helping us continue with the 290 seniors that we attend to. I encourage you to consider this. These are wonderful families that need the help of the community, and they will help your community and bring a lot of employment to your city.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, City of Nogales, Jorge Maldonado. Welcome, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council staff. I myself also have known the Villa family for 45 years. These people have do a great job for the community. They are backing of all phases, sports, schools, everything. Basically, what they do in Nogales for us is support. What they do for the city is give a good working placement at their stores. They have excellent services. Your communities will be tremendously supportive, and they'll be blessed by having a store like this in your community. The family itself is structured of three sons that Mr. Aurelio has, and they work together. They work in friendship. I think what Tucson will get on this benefit is a big plus. Thank you for considering, and thank you for letting me come and speak on their behalf. Hopefully you could approve. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have cards for opposing. It's Yolanda Herrera with SNAP. You want to come up, Yolanda? And Michelle Moguia. I think I got it right. Where are they at?
They're in the back. They're coming.
That's Jamal. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, staff members, City Manager. My name is Yolanda Herrera, President of the Southside Neighborhood Association's Presidential Partnership. I am a fifth-generation Tucsonan. I've lived here for 67 years, maybe not quite as long as the individuals in Nogales, but Tucson is my home. And we are here to protect not only Tucson streets, partner with Tucson Police Department, but our youth and members of the community. I know that the applicant tried to reach out to me a couple of times, but unfortunately October happens to be my busiest month, if that's possible. I've been back-to-back all month. In fact, I'm just now getting back from the University of Arizona on a advisory board that I sit on. I want to mention to members of the audience that when TPD says they're in compliance, it only means they have not found anything. They themselves cannot protest, but they are seriously concerned about increased crime to areas, calls to service when staffing is already stressed. Beer skips, running into traffic, and even death are a reality at this location. I presented to the call to the audience at the Sunnyside School Board a couple of weeks ago, and several of the teachers there thanked me for bringing this to their attention. They do not see this as a positive to our community. The Tucson Police Department also gave me crime stats for Las Montañas. It's a different name now. But just within 3 months, they had 265 calls to service. Many of those were domestic violence, assault, injury, disturbing the peace, check welfare, mental cases, criminal damage, homicide, and murder. There were 2 of those. I respect that the individual is well known in Nogales, but this is not Nogales. This is my home and the home of all the people that stand behind me. So with that, we don't believe that the needs and convenience would be met with another liquor location, a brand new liquor location at an industrial center. It's very close to Campbell, which is high traffic. And for that, I'm requesting that you deny this application. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Michelle. All right.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Michelle Murguia. I am part of LPKNC and Jóvenes en Acción, which I'm the chair of. I'm a student at Sunnyside High School. I'm a senior this year, and I live in the community. I live right next to Sunnyside at Tres Pueblos, and I also go to Citywide Produce. And I don't think that allowing them to get a liquor license will be a great value to our community and will bring our community down more. Because we already have a Circle K up the street, we have a Valero down the street, we have a Circle K on the other corner, we have the Food City, we have the Fries, we have so much availability of liquors to our community. So why add more to the community for them to be able to get liquor? And so close to Sunnyside. I don't think you guys should allow them to get a liquor license because this will hurt our community. I go to Sunnyside, I see how much people drink and adding more to our community, adding more liquor is not a good idea. I hope you guys consider this. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Can we bring up the owner?
Councilmember Figueres, we have a letter from Mr. Holmes, if that can be read for the record.
2 and 2 is right, what I think is fair, because it came in late. So,
All right. Is the owner or the applicant here? Could you guys, okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Yolanda, if you want to file the letter for the record, I think that's probably, okay. Okay, thank you. Let's let they're coming.
Want to step up?
What, if you guys would step up?
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
You want to talk about your operation, what you're going to be doing there at the Citywide Produce?
Yes, so I'm here on behalf of Citywide Produce and Via's Market, and I want to thank you guys for your time and the opportunity for opening up a grocery store in Tucson, Arizona. So I'm a third generation grocery store retailer. Our business has been growing strong in Nogales for the last 50 years, and we strive on providing quality produce, quality meats, and affordable groceries. Down in Nogales, we've been, competing against the big box store chains, and we've been doing an amazing job doing so. And down in Nogales right now, Safeway, Walmart, Food City, no one donate to the community anymore. They say times are too hard, but luckily for us, we've been doing good enough where we do help our community. And is it okay if I read through some examples, Councilman Fimbres? So,
you know what? I appreciate your community generosity, and I think that's been already spoken to. At least from my perspective, I'd like to hear about how you'll deal with, obviously it sounds like it's a grocery store, but with it there is some kind of liquor license, and I'd like to hear about your history with that.
So it's a beer and wine license. I won't be selling any hard alcohol at all. We don't like doing that, and we won't be selling anything below 24 ounces of beer. We don't want to attract the wrong customer to our, so we'll sell, 12 packs, 30 packs, 12 ounces, but no single serving shot shooters, nothing like that. We don't want that type of customer in our grocery store. But, with a grocery store, it kind of goes hand in hand with beer. And in order for us to compete against Safeway, Walmart, Ranch Market that's going in down the street, people don't want to make two stops. And if we can't sell beer, people would rather go to the one place where they can buy everything, at one time. So, that's why we're applying for the beer license, but it is a grocery store. And, we do compete against the big box stores and provide better prices, better quality, and that's what we focus on. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. How much of your square footage is grocery and how much of it is beer and wine?
So right now, Citywide Produce, the way it's set up, it should be about 6,000 to 7,000 square feet of grocery, and it's going to be one wall of beer. So the back wall against the store, linear feet, so it'll probably be linear feet. So linear feet will probably be about 25 linear feet.
So, Mr. Mayor, I see that the staff recommendation has been, the police department says they're in compliance, developmental services, the P1 zoning is in compliance, and the revenue investigation shows that they are also in compliance. There's no school or church within the 300 feet. So with that, Mr. Mayor, and knowing what their issues, and I think the things that were put out, this is going to be just a liquor store, and it's not. It was going to be a grocery store, and there's many neighborhoods and the neighbors in the area that are requesting a store. So with that, I'm going to move the item forward.
Okay, get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this matter? Councilman Romero?
Mr. Villa, I'm very familiar with Villa's Market in Nogales, and I know that you have a carniceria, a butcher shop. Will you provide that service here in Citywide Produce?
Yes, so we've actually opened up a meat processing plant that's Arizona Department of Agriculture approved. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be selling vacuum packed meats, which is going to allow us to sell them even cheaper than we already do down in Nogales. So yes, it will be a full service
grocery store like
yes.
It is in Villa's Market.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, I'm sorry, was it?
Villa.
Villa, that makes sense. So you saw that there were a series of neighbors here tonight, and Yolanda Herrera, who takes a real interest in this, was decent enough to say that you tried to reach out to her, but she hadn't had the opportunity. I would recommend to you that you do spend time with her, because if a problem does arise in the future, that communication I think will be invaluable, and then that way, you've had good community partnerships in Nogales, but you definitely want to have one in this neighborhood as well.
Yes, like we said, we like to contribute to the community, and I've reached out to Yolanda about 5-6 times, so okay. I'm all open to having a good communication with her.
Make sure you do it, please.
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
And also the Sunnyside School District, you've done some great things with the Nogales School District. I wanted to see the same type of interaction with the Sunnyside School District that's right across the street from that.
Of course. Yeah, that's, we love, like I said, being community advocates, so we're all for that.
Thank you, Mr. Villa.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 6.
Call to the audience.
At this time, any member of the public is allowed to address the mayor and council on any issue. Please make sure you've read the information on the back of the speaker's card before making your presentation. Speakers are limited to 3-minute presentations. Call the audience is scheduled to last for 30 minutes. Pursuant to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, individual council members may ask the city manager to review a matter, ask them to be placed on a future agenda, or respond to criticism made by speakers. However, the mayor and council may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during call of the audience. So we have a number of cards here tonight. There are what I call the single issue cards, and I think I'll call on those first. And then we have 2 where we have a number of cards. One is the T21 issue, and the other is one from the Sunrise Tucson Coalition. So what will likely happen, I think what I'll do is, as I said, I'll take the single issue folks first. I will then probably take, depending on where we're at on time, take a couple cards from the Sunrise Coalition. If amongst you, you have somebody who you want to have be the spokesperson, just come on up and identify yourself. Otherwise, I'll just call 2. And on T21, it'll be similar. I won't be able to get to every card to be certain. I know there's some students here, and I do want to hear from at least a student, as does the rest of the council, I'm sure. But we'll hear representative views on that as well. All right, let's get started. We'll start with Robert Royce.
This is City Council presentation number 268 in the last 19 years. It's time for our city matching funds program to end. The program was set up in the 80s with good faith, with the idea that the city would match funds dollar for dollar, and then that would limit the amount that people could spend on the campaign, putting the campaign in the hands of the city voters instead of the special interests. Unfortunately, one mayoral candidate this time has decided to game the system. She took $125,000 in city funds to match the $125,000 that she raised. Should have been enough, $250,000 should have been enough. But the playing field is not level when outside groups spent $500,000 while they were doing it, touting your participation in the city matching funds plan. So I think the city voters have been hoodwinked. People who are not going to vote for the machine candidate are being obligated to help support her campaign, and that is not right. So I'm going to, my attitude is the matching funds program has to end, because from now on it's just going to be gamed. On another issue, the machine is tightening its grip on our city. Right now the machine has 7 of 7 seats, and after the November election they're going to have 7 of 7 seats. We're going to continue to have machine government for the next 4 years, with the number one goal is absolving all developers and businesses in the city of paying taxes for the next 8 years. And what that means is that the taxes on every single home, I'm talking, it's been $100 million already, and we're looking at another $500 million in the next 4 years. All of that assessed valuation is going to be placed on the homeowners, the renters, and the small businesses, and that is absolutely not fair. And it's going to ruin this city, and I don't know how you're going to explain that to the people who think that they bought you with their $500,000 contribution. Finally, I'm rewriting my aldermanic initiative. I'm going to put it into circulation. I'm changing the effective date to December 1st of 2002. So the manager will become if it passes, the manager will become an administrator for 1 year at his full salary. On December 1st of 2023, when the new mayor is inaugurated, the manager position will cease to exist. The new mayor will have the right to hire an administrator, but with a salary cap. No more $300,000. Thank you.
Okay, Yolanda Herrera.
Good evening. I'm still smiling, not happy with that vote, but tomorrow's another day. We can still battle this at the state level, but thank you for your time. I'm actually here because I'm 2 months late in giving thanks and credit to Mr. Ortega and his staff for their assistance and all the other departments that helped us do the director's town hall that was held on August 15th. It was very well attended. It was very impressive. It was great to see, put faces to names. It was great to see the directors put a face to the community. It was a very strong positive, and people would like to see that happen again. So I just want to put it out there to the public that this was a great event. You haven't had 12 directors came out. That has never happened before, and that was sponsored by SNAP. So again, I want to thank you, and I apologize for being behind, but that's my life. I'm so far behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yolanda. You're not one of those people that overcommits, are you?
Never.
Never. Okay. Thanks, Yolanda. Okay. Neil Mason. Is there a Neil Mason here? There he is.
Mayor Rothschild, Councilman.
You might want to try that taller mic.
My bad. Sorry. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So my concern of many is our public transportation system here in this town, primarily the safety on it. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are a lot of passengers being admitted who are under the influence or who suffer from grave wounds, and they provide a risk to the public of bloodborne diseases and the like. I have witnessed and taken video evidence of this, of multiple Suntran drivers breaking the rules, admitting people who don't pay a fare, admitting people with open, gaping neck wounds that are bleeding onto their shirts, exposing bloodborne illnesses. I've taken video evidence of your Suntran drivers admitting passengers who are under the influence of drugs just because they didn't really want to put up with it. The idea is that they're a public servant and they serve all of us. And if we're concerned about our safety, and if we're concerned about, just being able to get to point B from point A using a bus, then I'm wondering what any of you in leadership are doing to accommodate or remedy that issue. That's a question that I have.
Mr. Mayor, can we have the city manager follow up to answer these questions that are posed today, and just to follow up on the safety, not just of the passengers of Suntran, but the drivers, which is something that we've heard before?
Okay. Mr. Mason, I'm going to get your card back to the clerk, and if you could put some contact information, either email or phone number, for the manager.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Like I said, I have taken many videos of this. I don't want to make our city look like trash, but it certainly reflects that when we see that people are being admitted who are posing a public threat to the rest of us. And I'm not blaming the drivers particularly. I'm mostly blaming the people who employ them, who seem to not care about the state of their drivers or the state of their buses.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And she'll get you get her the supplemental information. Okay, I've got, I think, Judy Sensabar and Joe Audino here, kind of on the same thing. We're tight on time. Could one of you choose to speak tonight, please? All right. We'll take Joe, it looks like. No, we'll take Judy. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, my name is Judy Sensabar. As president of West University Neighborhood Association, as a board member of the historic 4th Ave Coalition, I am fed up with how the city continually grants exceptions to zoning, parking, and building code to out-of-town developers who want to build massive structures while at the same time coming down as hard as you can on the local little guy. It's a sickening feeling to witness the city rolling over and showing its belly to anyone who promises big bucks in the nebulous future, while constantly making it really hard, I'd even say bullying back, local builders and creative types who are trying to implement smart, responsible infill right now. Greenlighting Opus's plan for 700-plus bedrooms by granting them 4 different concessions to code in the last 4 months, including a reduction from 1 space per unit to 0.7, is a massive change, especially when we've now learned over 50 of these units will be 4-bed, 4-bath with a living room, quote, not enough to put your cat in. Not big enough. That's student housing. How is it that Planning and Development Services is even the entity that is granting these zoning exceptions to parking and traffic circulation? These are not minor amendments, but zoning exceptions with wide impacts and should be treated as such. It comes down to how little the city seems to acknowledge or care about how these monstrosities impact what is everyone's access and infrastructure. Why aren't you scrutinizing these massive developments and demanding more from those who want to build here? I'll say it again, access and infrastructure. Instead of granting Opus the GPLET, the PAD amendments, rolling over on your back and screaming uncle, why aren't you standing up to them and really looking at what we already know are going to be the problems? Why are you encouraging new development when you can't even handle what you already have? Allowing more student housing to go up, meaning allowing Opus to buy and control a block of Herbert Avenue when you haven't even dealt with the district buying Fifth Avenue. It's appalling. Because of the student towers at Main Gate, we are having huge problems with, guess what? Their impact and acts on access and infrastructure. I'm going to use my remaining time to focus on our antiquated storm and sewer drains and the code that no longer protects my neighborhood and my constituents from repeated flooding. When the architect from Opus was asked about drainage last Tuesday in front of the IID Design Review Committee, the whole room erupted in a nervous, knowing Twitter. But he obviously had no clue. With a straight face, he talked about how very proud he was of the 5,000 gallons of water harvesting tanks written into the plans. I have 3,000 gallons of tanks in my backyard that are constantly overflowing. Our code allows water from fire suppression tests, water from daily pressure washing of pool decks, and water collected in elevator shafts during construction, all to leave the property. There has been no solution to the millions of gallons of filthy water that should be contained and managed on site, but is now legally allowed to run on our streets, right past our houses. Does that mean a minute?
No, I think that means 3 minutes.
Oh, shit.
Ooh, no, then.
West of Euclid, the storm drain is the gutter, but now there is so much water it's jumping the curb. Planting in the right-of-way at 2nd Avenue and Euclid are covered with a black residue. The agaves look like oil-slicked birds and are suffering from the same deterioration. We are watching. We are trying to get answers.
Okay.
And the more we uncover, the more we are dismayed.
You can always come back.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. All right. Kara Bissell? Bissell? I'm sorry, Bissell?
Thank you, council members, mayor, staff, audience. This is my last time before the election before I'll be here. My name's Kara Bissell, Peace Bowl candidate, Green Party member for Ward 4 City Council member. Election day coming up November 5th. A week from tomorrow is the last day they say we can put them in the mail, so it gets there by November 5th. Please vote. I'd like to recognize that Regina Romero has been so friendly when I've seen her in a vigil or two. And Paul, you've been on the campaign trail. We've meshed a little bit. And Paul Durham, he's been all the time, every month, hosting the Veterans for Peace Chapter 13, second Monday of each month. Shirley Scott, you helped me know your job a little bit, running for your retirement ending and your retirement starting, and hopefully my beginning with the job and in the Saturday bash, get to school bash. Mr. Richard, I haven't met you. I don't really know you yet. And Steve Kozaczyk, as much as I like you individually, we've been at odds lately in the news, but on the Prop 205. But I respect you and know how much you've done for the community, for immigration. And Mayor Rothschild, same. I've seen you in many settings and appreciate you. Thank you all. We're all working together. We'll work more together. I have the energy to serve you. Background includes I've worked hard all my life. I'll work hard here. Intellectually, I've got a master's degree in teaching. I've taught calculus, pre-calculus, and trigonometry and programming, computer programming. Have a CNA, was a certified nurse's assistant in Green Valley. Worked at the Centro de Recursos Permigrantes in Agua Prieta with Frontier de Cristo. I have an experience and a background that will make Tucson proud, and I want to serve everyone, everyone. The score is 6-0 in a football game, fourth quarter. We're behind, and I've got a half minute, and there's 25 yards to the goal, possible win in the third down. Only God knows. The Green Party's always been in this to win. We're for Prop 205, for families together. We're for climate change. We know it's real. 97% of the scientists, climate scientists, say it's human caused. We need to reverse it. I thank you for your vote.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're going to move on to the two topics where there's a lot of speakers. So a couple things. I've got 8, just so the council knows how many folks are here. There's 8 speakers that want to address, it looks like from the same group, Sunrise Tucson, the climate crisis. I would ask that I can call on 2, or if you have somebody that you want to be your spokesperson, then I know that, there we go, looks like they're up. Okay, you come on up. You can all go up, 2 speakers. Then I know that I saw Michael Cajero walk in later, and Michael, I think you want to, if you're here, I think you want to speak on the same topic. So tonight, I'm going to let these folks speak, and then I'll have the clerk save your card so that you could be up first next time, because we still have one other fairly contentious issue to go through. All right, so just announce whoever you are, and then I'll know who the card is, and we'll go from there.
Hi. So I'll speak on behalf of all of us. My name is Hannah Rego. I am a resident of Tucson and a graduate student at the University of Arizona. And I'm here tonight to urge you, Mayor and Council, to declare a climate emergency in a movement toward adopting a Green New Deal for Tucson. I acknowledge and appreciate that Plan Tucson laid a foundation for sustainability in our city, but I must assert that its goals are not bold enough. Globally, the last 5 years have been the hottest on record, a trend we are experiencing firsthand here in southern Arizona, which is a direct target for the effects of climate change. Tucsonans are living through more heat and less rain. We know that this reality is damaging our economy, damaging the most vulnerable members of our community, and frankly, the existence of our home city is threatened. Currently, our infrastructure, including transportation, buildings, and industry, is powered by extractive and polluting energy sources. We know that we have the technology and science available to solve these problems. We can start now by acknowledging them. We know that the people of Tucson are waiting for their representatives to take action on this issue. On September 21st, over 500 Tucsonans left work to join in the global climate strike alongside 4 million others nationally and internationally. And this was at El Presidio Park, just right over here. They made their demands for a sustainable, stable future. It's time for you to listen to your constituents, declare a climate emergency, and lead Tucson in taking real action. Thank you.
Okay. If one more person wants to speak, go ahead.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. My name is Joe Sellens, and I'm with the Sunrise Tucson movement. I'm also here asking you to declare a climate emergency. The science is clear, the impacts are here, and the time to act is now. We have a gridlocked Congress in Washington, a climate denier in the White House, and a Green New Deal seems unlikely to pass in the short term on a national level. But it's not hopeless. We can act and we must act locally. We are asking, including the declaration of a climate emergency, also taking bold action through steps like creating a carbon neutral emissions and transition to fully renewable energy production by 2030, retrofitting city buildings to maximize efficiency and carbon neutrality, having a carbon neutral city fleet, expanded public transit, and more bikes and pedestrian use through friendlier city streets to those methods of transit, and fund programs to build renewables, renewable infrastructure using local workers as the workforce. These will create job opportunities, reduce emissions, and further help us to prepare for the challenges that we will face in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming in. Okay, we're going to move on to the T21 issue. We have, looks like, if I'm understanding it right, a number of students from Empire, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a couple other youth. So if the youth would like to come forward as a group, and then if you can designate a spokesperson, that would be nice. I can give you the names: Shelby Hayes, Shelby Voveris, Isabella Didiger, Zane Hassan, Aaron Maltzman, and Strider Rodenberg. And yeah, I think it was. I think we heard from Strider last time, if I'm not mistaken. So let's get some new folks. All right. Could I have your name, please?
Shelby Voveris.
Go. All right. 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We are from Empire High School Student Wellness Advocacy Team. My name is Shelby Voveris. My name is Isabella Didiger.
I'm Shelby Hayes.
I'm Zane Hassan.
We presented on Tobacco 21 in August of 2018, and we really ask you guys to take this step in protecting us. We're tired of the big tobacco companies targeting us. If you raise the legal sales age of tobacco and other vape products to 21, it's taking that legal purchaser out of our social circles and out of our schools, ultimately protecting us and our health.
Not only are tobacco and vape products popular in high school, but also they are rising in middle schools. By voting through Tobacco 21, you are decreasing the accessibility of these products in middle schools and high schools. These students don't know what they're putting in their bodies, and by taking that legal purchaser out, they're less at risk.
Thank you for having us, and please consider the wellness of our youth in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Aaron Maltzman is another student, I think. Is Aaron here? Would Aaron like to speak? Here we go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Aaron Maltzman, and I'm an advocate for my school's club, Leaders for Public Health. I want to begin by saying how much vaping has impacted my friend's social life as well as my school community.
I'll take it from here. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Strider Rodenberg. To quote Gabor Mate, a physician at a safe injection site in Canada and an internationally acclaimed author, 3 factors need to coincide for substance addiction to occur: a susceptible individual, a drug with addictive potential, and stress. So the question we need to start asking is, what creates the susceptibility? Well, The most detailed study on the long-term effects of childhood trauma, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, found that a child is 2 to 4 times as susceptible to addiction for every trauma that they experience. We are the first generation where widespread terrorism and mass shootings are normal occurrences. There have been more mass shootings than there have been days this year, and over 230 high school shootings alone since Columbine in '99. We are the ones who have to deal with the effects of climate change, the growing political polarization in the U.S., and the inevitable automation of the workforce. We have been tricked into believing that social medias and consumer objects can replace friends and happiness, which has resulted in a loneliness epidemic. Post-secondary education, which is becoming increasingly important in securing jobs, is now an extremely for-profit industry. I hope that you can show empathy for the intense and overwhelming stress and trauma that my generation is plagued with, because that is why we are such an addicted generation. When your time in public service is over, you will not be remembered by the greedy tobacco retailers. Rather, your story will be told by us, my friends, my generation, whom are the victims here. Today you have a choice to make. What do you want your story, your legacy to be? Do you want to be remembered as the enabler who allowed big tobacco companies to swoop in and take advantage of our susceptibility? Or do you want to be remembered as the pioneer, the person who stood up for us and protected us from these predatory companies? Ultimately, it's your choice to make, not mine, but I can promise you 2 things. First, your choice is permanent. If you choose to ignore this problem, regardless of how much other positives you have brought to the Tucson community, you will always be remembered as the enabler, because your story will be told by us, again, whom are the victims. Second, if you want to be remembered as a pioneer, you must address the 3 factors of addiction. T21 makes it harder to access vapes, but it does not deal with my generation's stress nor susceptibility. Please read through the packet that I will hand to you and reach out so that we can work together to overcome this solvable problem. As youth and role models, let's unite, let's become the pioneers, and let's set a good example for Pima County, Arizona, the country at large, and ultimately and most importantly, future Tucson youth. Thank you.
Ms. Clerk? Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, so now I've got, looks like 4 cards speaking in favor of T21, but 3 of them are from, looks like the American Cancer Society, and I know I've heard at least from Brian before, so we will take those 2, and then we have 2, I don't know if they're speaking against, but certainly 2 from the retailers. So we'll just kind of go, yes, we'll do it a little alternatively. Why don't we start with Carlos Estrada? Carlos, you still here? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tough act to follow. Thank those who've met with me. My name is Carlos Estrada. I am the Operation Director of Circle K stores in southeastern Arizona. I represent 123 stores, 1,450 employees, and I would like to again thank those who have met with me here recently, Mayor and the council members. Thank you for your time. I know it's limited. I believe that we're one of the best retailers of restricted age product. If you look at the number of products that we go through our registers every day, I have just under 100 stores in the city of Tucson, and I believe that we practice some of the most strictest guidelines and policies within our own organization to minimize the risk of selling to minors or getting product into impaired persons' hands. Circle K was hoping for a statewide solution to make a level playing field with retailers across the state. Obviously, a vote tonight, and we're not against 21. We just want a level playing field so that the boundary lines did not become so clear that they can just go outside the city of Tucson to purchase the product. It obviously give you lost sales and lost sales tax revenue to our city. I attended stakeholder meetings, and I attended quite a few of them with the county orchestrating. I brought up some concerns. I asked that the employee that would sell to an adult that was 18 to 20 or under 21, that they would be penalized. I asked for penalties for all. I asked that there would be no suspensions until the 3rd violation. I asked for validation that our computer-based training, which is pretty rigorous, ensures that the education of our employees is thorough. I also asked that the ordinance mirror the liquor with a 2-year look back. None of the feedback that was given by the retailers and myself in these stakeholder meetings are reflected in the Tucson City Ordinance tonight, not one. I'm sure you know our industry has high turnover. As an entry-level job for many that come to my business, there's a few that stick around for a while and make it a lifetime career after 27 plus years. I'm one of those few. Tonight, I would like to kindly ask the Mayor and Council to reconsider only one of all those key stakeholder meetings, and that's the look-back period of 3 years. I'd like for you to consider the 2-year look-back with the turnover and the training that we do, the boundaries that are going to be set, understanding that there's suspensions at 7, or the second one at 7 days, 30 days. There are stores I will not be operating after it loses its license for 30 days. I can guarantee you that. So there's some stores that do very well, and there's some stores that work on a very thin margin. I'm asking that we work together to reduce the access that minors have to tobacco and vaping devices. I hopefully will include education, individual accountability, and crime reduction efforts throughout the city. I want to thank you for your community service. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carlos. Joanna Struther.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joanna Struther. I'm the Director of Advocacy for the American Lung Association. First, I'd like to thank you all for bringing awareness to this very important topic and continuing to be leaders in tobacco control. A special thank you to Councilmember Durham, who has really championed this effort. It has taken many stakeholder meetings, as you've heard and you know, to get to where we are today. And I just want to thank you for your continued work on this effort. Let's remember why we are here today. Tobacco 21 laws focus on protecting youth from the death and disease associated with tobacco use. Nearly 95% of addicted adult smokers started smoking before they were 21. If we can keep young people from getting hooked on tobacco products before their 21st birthday, they will likely never become addicted. According to the Institute of Medicine, raising the tobacco sales age will alter the peer group of high school students who often access tobacco products through older individuals in their social networks. With the minimum legal sales age set to 21 instead of 18, legal purchasers would be less likely to be in the same social networks as high school students, and therefore less able to sell or give tobacco products to them. In addition to raising the age, having a strong licensing mechanism that is adequate for enforcement includes sufficient compliance checks, sufficient fines, and a 36-month look-back period is very important. Tobacco 21 is our opportunity to stop the tobacco industry from capturing today's young people as tomorrow's customers. The American Lung Association encourages you to vote yes tonight on raising the legal sales age to 21 for all tobacco products. Thank you.
Okay. Troy Little. Is Troy here?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time. My name is Troy Little. I'm president of the Quick Mart Convenience Stores. We are a second-generation family-owned business. January, we'll be celebrating our 56th year in business. We have 23 stores here in Pima County, 16 that reside in the city limits. I am not in support of passing the T21 ordinance. I understand that the intent of the ordinance is to limit the access of tobacco and vape products to young adults. I'm just certain that the cost is not justified. Without the support of unincorporated Pima County and the other jurisdictions in Pima County, the tobacco sales from the city of Tucson will go to these other jurisdictions, and I believe will have little or no impact on young adult smoking. I do not know what the tax implication would be, but I'd love to see more police officers on the street, quite frankly. It would be like my company totally eliminating the sale of tobacco products in my stores. Those customers would be going to Circle K, Quick Trip, Walgreens, wherever to buy their tobacco products. I'd be out of business. I have heard that there may be talk to lower the penalty amounts and the look-back period. I would appreciate you addressing that. 3 years is just too long for a look-back period. Remember, 3 years ago, vaping was not even an issue. Vaping wasn't even, it was just, there was no such thing as vape. As Carlos said, within 3 years, I will have dozens of employees in a typical convenience store due to the high turnover in our industry. If I had an infraction today, it'd be 2022 before I'd be out of Dutch with the city. If I had another infraction 2 years from now, I could be on probation till 2024. So I would appreciate you looking at the 2-year look-back period. I would also appreciate you addressing the penalties. I think they should be lower as well. As a responsible retailer, the penalty is not the deterrent. The law, in whatever fashion that you come up with, that is the deterrent. However, the way the ordinance is written, in the fact that neither the clerk nor the young adult is under any penalty for doing wrong, as a business owner, I can train and I can preach and I can threaten the loss of a job, but truly, what control do I have? For the young adult trying to make a purchase, what is the worst thing that could happen? My clerk to say no, and they could go down. Do I still have a minute, or am I done?
You don't, Mr. Lowe. If you could just wrap up real quick.
Anyway, I appreciate your time. I understand we may or may not agree on this topic, but I appreciate everything, what you guys do, the time and energy you put into this and everything you do to running our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Nicole Olmsted, that'll wrap it up.
I have to bring this down a little lower, sorry. Mayor, Council, I'm Nicole Olmsted. I'm the Government Relations Director for the American Heart Association. I represent the Southern Arizona office. We'd like to thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this ordinance to raise the tobacco sale age from 18 to 21. This ordinance will protect our youth from tobacco, and as you've heard tonight, they are asking you for this effort. You have heard from the retailers that the fee for this license is too expensive and the fines are too much. The average retailer makes $576,000 a year in tobacco sales. In over 500 communities that have passed T21, the data shows that there has been very little movement across city lines and across into purchasing the products outside of where people are living. Pima County, in their ordinance that they drafted, they gave every concession to the retailers, and the retailers still opposed the ordinance. So I think even if you changed the ordinance, they would still oppose the ordinance. A 2-year look-back period. In order to do a two-year look-back period, the licensing fee would need to be significantly higher, and the penalties, much like liquor, would also need to be significantly higher, as you heard about in the October 11th study committee meeting. I'd also like to address the fact that Walgreens and Walmart have already raised their tobacco sales age to 21, and CVS stopped selling tobacco products years ago. And further, state law also addresses the youth purchase aspect, which is one of the things that keeps getting brought up, that youth are not being punished. Our state law already addresses that issue. In the folders that I've provided you, you can see, based on your ward, the percent of failures that have happened. And it's all broken down by zip code. And you'll also see that there's some overlap because there's multiple zip codes in each of the wards. The tobacco retail license included in this ordinance provides a mechanism for strong enforcement and incentives for compliance. We fully support this ordinance and ask that you do too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we've gone over time on call of the audience, so we will move on to item 7, which is the consent agenda.
Consent agenda items A through E.
Reports from the city manager on the consent agenda received and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read the consent agenda.
Your Honor, on this evening's consent agenda, item A is approval of minutes. Item B is an intergovernmental agreement with Regional Transportation Authority of Pima County for Grant Road Phases 5 and 6 design. This item will be considered separately at the request of Councilmember Kozaczek. Item C is an intergovernmental agreement with Northwest Fire District and Golder Ranch Fire District for fire protection and other services and formation of the Southern Arizona Automatic Aid Response Council. Item D is Tucson Code amending Chapters 7 and 11 relating to age restriction for purchases of tobacco and nicotine delivery products and establishing a license enforcement program. This item will be considered separately at the request of Councilmember Cunningham. Item E is the final plat S19069 Melwood Place, lots 1 through 5. That's the extent of the consent agenda, Your Honor.
Okay, so we can go ahead and pass A, C, and E. All right, so let's have a motion on A, C, and E, if we could, please. I got a motion second to approve items A, C, and E on the consent agenda. Any discussion on those three items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, then we'll move to item B. Councilman Kozaczek, you've asked for separate consideration of that?
Thanks. I just wanted to get a couple of things on the record. This is $5 million. We're being asked to approve RTA dollars for the design of phases 5 and 6. Phases 5 and 6 are the last two phases of the project. I just want to clarify a few things. Number one, the dollars are going to be used for design within the curb lines and utility relocations.
Can we have somebody, Robin?
Yes, Mr. Kozaczek.
Okay. When will the land use discussions for 5 and 6 begin?
The land use discussions will continue as they have been with the Grant Road Task Force, and we'll start in more detail when the design starts.
Okay, so if we approve these dollars, we can expect outreach to begin with the surrounding neighborhoods as soon as the money is approved?
Mayor, Mr. Kozaczek, once we have gotten a little bit into the exploration of that area, you would expect us to go out to the task force, and we will keep them up to date with both what the design is and what the land use assumptions.
So I understand you're having the interactions with the task force. I'm asking about the surrounding neighborhoods that are going to be directly affected by the land use decisions as we get in further into the design.
Oh, sorry,
Different group.
I misunderstood. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kozaczek, we will continue to do outreaches with the neighborhoods whenever we have points of decision or whenever we have areas where we've come to a certain level that we can portray to them and ask questions.
Okay, I don't want to pick Lent with you, but this is going to require some very, very significant outreach because phases 5 and 6 are passing through some very well-established residential areas with schools, with churches, with businesses that are going to require public outreach beyond the task force, including the public art component that's being put together with a committee. So if we are intending to wait until we have reached decision points to advise neighborhoods of and businesses of, that's too late. They need to be involved in the conversation as the design evolves and not simply be advised, here's what we decided and we're going to hit your neighborhood on such and such a date.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kozaczek, I'm sorry I implied that there would be nothing beyond decision points. We would like to actually show people something on a drawing when we're asking their opinion as to what we should be considering and what we should not.
The complete streets policy, what role is that going to play in the design?
The complete...
Again, outside the curb lines?
You understand the question?
Yes,
okay,
Mr.
go ahead,
Mayor,
then.
Mr. Kozaczek. So the complete streets policy will drive the design both inside and outside of the curb lines because that's the policy of the city.
Okay, and when will construction begin?
We anticipate construction to start in the realm of 2026.
And the RTA sunsets when?
In 2026.
The $166 million construction budget, that's for all 6 phases?
Yes, sir.
And the city will be the lead agency on all of it, but specifically in this case for 5 and 6?
Yes.
And so when will we be bidding the project so that we know what the actual costs for 5 and 6 are? Because, as we all know, the lead agency is responsible for cost overruns, costs above the full budget. When are we going to bid the project?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Gzachek, we expect to bid in 2026, but we would not advertise for bids unless we were assured that the budget existed for the project to be constructed.
So
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Gzachek. So maybe just to help a little bit, the way the process works, when the plans are complete, probably in 25-ish, we'll have a good idea of the engineer's estimate. At that point, we identify what the costs are, and that's an ongoing conversation that will lead up to that point. But we'll know before, we won't put it out to bid if we don't have the dollars identified, so we'll know in advance of that.
Okay, and so let me just clarify so people don't think I'm talking about something that's 6 years out in the future and why am I wasting everyone's time with this now is because the design conversations drive the budget. They drive, you know, what the land use options are going to be, what the, you know, I mentioned complete streets. Is it going to have bike lanes? Is it going to have tree canopy? What are the setbacks for the businesses? What are we doing to preserve the residential scale businesses that we are doing on Broadway, for instance, with Project for Public Spaces in Rio Nuevo? So this isn't simply academic, because what we can't have happen is get to 2025, start bidding the project, understanding that we just blew the budget, now we're going to have to start value engineering all the components out of it that the residents have been asking for the 4 and 5 and 6 years that we're entering right now with the approval of this design money. So the significant public outreach needs to start now once we approve the design. And we can't then say to the public 6 years from now, oh, by the way, what we promised you back in 2019 and 2020, we're pulling off the table because we blew the budget. So significant conversation starting now. I'm going to move that we approve the $5 million design, but also say that public outreach has to start now, not 5 years from now when everything's said and done.
Mr. Ortega, I don't design roads. Although I think they should go straight mainly. But if the $5 million is available for design now, and it is late 2019, I think as somebody who is also an expert in the field, you might be able to get a design done way quicker than 6 or 7 years. I can't even imagine. And then that will help to ease everybody's, because we're at the, we know that we're at the end of the cycle. There'll be money reserved, but so I think the council member's motion is fine, but I can't even begin to understand 6 years for design, and maybe
offline I can walk you through why it takes that long. But at the end of the day, I think Councilman Kozachek's point is well taken. Engagement now, sooner rather than later, with an understanding that ultimately the bigger conversation about funding doesn't happen for a bit, but it has to be now in the context of engagement so that there's an understanding of what that looks like going forward. Okay. So the intent's not we wait until the end. I think the point is we engage now on all of those fronts, which include all the public art and landscaping, et cetera, but also on some of the design elements as well.
And have all the properties been purchased along the railway, or have those conversations happened?
I don't think they have.
The properties have not yet been purchased. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kozachek, the manager's comments are well said. We need this amount of time so that we can do a proper, robust outreach and get the project that we can ultimately afford. And no, the properties are not yet purchased.
And do you know what the cost for phases 5 and 6, what the budget for 5 and 6 is?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Kozaczek, we are so early looking at this that we can only make assumptions that they will be approximately the same as the cost of 1 and 2 or the cost of 3 and 4, which is approximately $40 million for the right-of-way acquisition and approximately $35 to $40 million for construction. If everything was exactly like those two phases, which it will probably not
But
be.
one thing that's fundamentally different than those two phases, and certainly will be as time moves on, are project costs, material costs, labor costs, construction costs. And so we have to be mindful of the fact that as lead agency, we own the budget busts. And that's significant. So if the RTA if they're willing to step up to the plate and say, we understand time value of money, we understand cost escalations, and we understand that what we had projected as a budget back in 2006 when this went to the voters is 2 decades later not realistic, that's the conversation we need to be having with the RTA.
Okay, we got a motion. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you, Robin. So now we will go to T21. That was pulled by Councilmember Cunningham. Councilmember Cunningham, you mind deferring to Councilmember Durham?
That's fine.
Okay, Councilmember Durham.
Every week that we've done this, I've had to update my information from the CDC on the vaping illness, and each week the death count rises. The CDC has confirmed 1,479 cases of vaping illness and 33 deaths. In one confirmed case in Maricopa County, a 16-year-old junior in high school named Samantha Hatton Ford went into cardiac arrest and fell into a coma after vaping for 2 years. After she was hospitalized, doctors found that her lungs were bleeding. As of tonight, she's still hospitalized, although she's been taking off a ventilator and is breathing on her own. I know I speak for everyone here when I say we wish her a full and speedy recovery. The policy before us tonight will make a tangible impact on the lives of the youth of Tucson. It's a good policy, and we should pass it. 2 comments before I make a motion. The first is that this is a city-only ordinance. That's unfortunate, and I hope one day soon other southern Arizona jurisdictions will join us and eventually lead to a statewide or nationwide law. But we can't wait. The fact is that the retailers who told us we can't pass this because it will so easy for someone to purchase outside the city limits actively worked against our efforts to bring Pima County along. Many of the folks in this room, city staff and I, worked hard so that we could get approval from the Board of Supervisors, but some tobacco retailers helped kill the county proposal. So it's up to us to lead. Unfortunately, the real victims of the county failing to adopt the proposal will be the middle and high school students in unincorporated Pima County. The second thing I'd like to comment on is the discussion of a 24 or 36-month look-back period for enforcement. We very carefully crafted this policy to be budget neutral. The money raised from the tobacco retailers and vape shops by increasing the license fee to $300 will be allocated to enforcing this ordinance. $300 is frankly the lowest we can set the fee and still properly enforce. But the enforcement, as we discussed at study session, will be limited to our business licensing staff. I have the utmost confidence in our staff to be able to enforce. But if we only have 1 or 2 staff members working on this and over 400 stores, they'll have their job cut out for them. It may be that each store is visited by our enforcement staff once a year. It may even be less than that. If a store is only getting checked once every 18 months and the look-back period is every 2 years, we'll have a very difficult time rooting out the stores that are the bad actors. If we were to increase the license fee several $100s or more, maybe to $500, we might have that conversation. But at only $120,000 worth of enforcement, we can't. Some people have said that the look-back period for liquor licenses is 2 years, and we should mimic that. But they never say we should mimic the fact that the fines are significantly higher, or that each and every liquor license comes before the mayor and council. Although I'm sure that some people would love for us to vote on every vape shop that opens in their neighborhood. I said at a previous study session that I'd like a report back from staff a year after the ordinance goes into effect. If we can establish a successful enforcement regime that holds bad actors accountable with the money allocated towards enforcement, we can reconsider the look back in a year. I am open to taking a second look at the ordinance after it's gone into effect. But I'd rather start at 36 months and reduce it to 24 if the data shows that 24 months is enough. My goal from the beginning has been to get tobacco and nicotine products out of the middle and high schools. Right now, I believe the 36-month look back is necessary to achieve that. I move that we pass and adopt ordinance 11703 as presented.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Cunningham.
I've been in this game for a long time. I remember knocking on doors when I was 18 years old, and the first door I ever knocked on ever was a small businessman, and he just asked, you know, whatever you do with the rest of your life. I was canvassing actually for my father, who was running for public office at the time. He said, what are you going to look out for the little guy? And you know, I get that the Circle Ks and the Quick Trips, they may not be as profoundly affected by this ordinance as some other folks. We have a few. I'd say of the 400 retailers we have 60 or 70 retail stores that are locally owned and locally operated. And first of all, I'm a PE teacher. I've actually taught the SWAT curriculum. I've been a preventionist for my entire life. There's no force in the universe that would have me vote no on an ordinance to reduce to increase the tobacco age to 21. I'd be supportive of that. I already said at the beginning of this process, I'd be supportive of that. I also thought that the county would be a good partner in it, and they weren't. And we kind of rushed through this because we didn't go through that process again in speaking to our retailers. And this is the issue. At the end of the day, what you find out is policies have consequences. A lot of time they're unintended. And I don't, under any circumstances, think it's going to make that much of a difference on whether we're talking about look back or whether we're talking about increasing fines or decreasing fines. I think the biggest thing that's going to come out of this is probably going to be complaint based, where as stores are known to be selling to underage, we're going to steer enforcement resources that way. And I think that's probably how this is going to play out. So I'm not sure that the look back argument is truly valid. I will say this. When I say that we have things that are unintended, let's say one retailer who owns 5 or 6 stores has to close a store, or one person who owns one store has to close a store. That doesn't just impact the whole city. It impacts the people who work at the store. It impacts the neighborhood that becomes vacant with a vacant storefront. That being said, seeing the whole picture, there's no way that we can't pass an ordinance that doesn't increase the tobacco age. It doesn't make any sense. As a middle school teacher, I would never want the opportunity for underclassmen in high school or middle schoolers to have more access to tobacco than they already have. But I do think that this ordinance needs a little work. Right now, this ordinance is basically the draft of the national ordinance, but of the many communities that have passed it, they've all passed some alterations. I'm going to ask that we pass 11703, but change the look back period to 24 months, and that we decrease the fee by $100 to $200, the licensing fee, not the fines. The fines will stay as stringent as they are, but the licensing fee. I'll make that as a substitute motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Councilmember Romero.
Just a couple of comments
Yeah.
and questions. First and foremost, thank you for all the students, the American Heart Association, the retailers, everyone that's here at the table tonight, for your presentations and your concern about our youth and the health of our community. Councilmember Durham said that his intent is to get tobacco and nicotine products out of the hands of middle and high school youth, and I believe that we all believe in that. I actually believe that the retailers believe in that as well, right? We are seeing the tremendous consequences of vaping. We know the consequences. It has been well studied of tobacco and the effects of tobacco in individuals. So I just wanted to make sure that I thanked you all for being here today and for caring for our youth. As a mom of a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old, I absolutely want to make sure that we use preventative steps to prevent addiction as much as we possibly can. My question to staff is, the mayor and council communication says that the proposed city enforcement program would include a fee of approximately $300 per year, which Councilmember Cunningham has said wants to bring it down to $200 per year, which would generate approximately $120,000 from the current city licenses, which do not include vape shops. And it goes on further to say we do not know the amount of vape shops that we have in the city of Tucson. How is the change going to affect the return to the city of Tucson, and how are we going to find out how are we going to find the vape shops? How are we going to do that research?
Oh, excuse me. For the record, I wanted to make sure my motion included the vape shops.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, based simple math, $300, $120,000. So if you reduce that to 200, I figure about $80,000 additional dollars. We've already started tracking the vape shops. We're doing it via the internet, looking hard at where those are, and we'll be sending them notices. I don't have a number for you right this minute. So the 80,000 is conservative. I expect it'll be slightly more than that based on the number of vape shops.
So do vape shops currently need a business license? Okay.
You need a business license, but not
to open any type of business. I just want to make sure that. So when vape shops come to the city of Tucson Business Services, do they have to specify what type of business they're opening? Is there any way that we find this,
Councilmember Romero.
not based on the internet, but based on our own records?
No, they just come in and say they're a retailer.
So Joyce, what is, because I'm, what is the business license amount right now when they come in?
So
For
the business license?
For the vape shop, the retail license?
$25, I think.
Okay, so
yeah.
basically we're
But
picking.
that's for a business license.
Okay, what are the vape shops paying now?
It'd be just for the business license
Okay,
itself.
so every time we pick up a vape shop, we're either going to pick up $200 or $300, or $175 or $275. It would, here's my concern. If we go to $80,000.
Plus the vape shops.
But then I want to know what plus the vape shops are. That could make a difference.
There's at least 65 on Google. There's probably about 100. That's why the money works.
Okay. Well, that's important to me. That's what I need to know.
Members of the Mayor and Council and Mayor Rothschild, in developing the $300 per license application fee as part of the Pima County process that city staff were involved in, the $300 fee includes basically one enforcement action per year. So this isn't set as a program that you fund for $100,000 and you can do enforcement of every shop. The fee is the cost of doing enforcement once per year per shop. So if you add 65 vape shops, you also have to enforce at 65 vape shops, and that means $300 a year. If you want to do less enforcement, if you want to catch every shop 18 months, then approximately that cost would be $200. If you want to do it once every 3 years, the cost would approximately be $100, because the license compliance checks cost money every single time you go to a store. You have to go into a store with an undercover buyer and you have to set up the operation. That's a cost, and that cost is what drives the one enforcement check per year, $300. That's the other thing that's important to say here is that we haven't done this before. So this is based on the Pima County model that's based on one enforcement check per year, and that's what it's going to cost. We'll know a lot more in a year about what our actual costs are of doing this program.
Yeah, but my question is.
But you don't save in terms of economies of scale.
Okay, Chris, I think people
Okay,
understand
Chris, I understand that, but my question is.
Stay up there.
How do we, and maybe it's not for Chris, maybe this is for the city manager. If right now businesses come into the business services, ask for a business license, how much did you say a business license costs?
About $25.
$25. So how are we going to distinguish if we are not asking the businesses to tell us what type of retail service they are? How are we going to even distinguish when a retailer is selling tobacco and vape? Because we need to charge a different licensing fee.
Members of the Mayor and Council, what we have is two ways to try to capture that. The first is that the new ordinance requires any business that sells electronic delivery devices or nicotine-containing liquids to apply for that license. Okay, so that's the first, is that those shops no longer, right now, all they have to apply for is a business license, so all we know is that they've applied for a retailer business license. When the law takes effect, they will have to also apply for a tobacco license. Some of those shops are going to voluntarily comply. The other way,
I'm sorry. Just to clarify, you get $25 business license, and then if you handle tobacco or vape, or you sell vape products, you have to pay an additional?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Second, the penalties are much more severe for shops who sell these tobacco products to under 21 purchasers who do not have a license at the time they engage in that sale. So if you look at the penalties in the ordinance, you see that the penalties for selling underage with a license are listed in the ordinance, and then the penalties for selling without a license are much more severe, and there's a requirement that you go get a license upon the first offense. So there's sort of a law that says go get a license, and then there's a serious penalty that we hope incentivizes people to go get a license. When those folks get licenses, we'll check that with Google as best we can to figure out what we've got. There are probably going to be some people who try to play the game, just like there are people who try to play the game with lots of other things that are sold in the city. We'll try to catch them.
Councilmember Fimbres.
Chris, I sent you an email earlier under the proposed 743C. Can it be explained why driver's licenses or ID cards issued by any state or territory of the United States or even Canada would be accepted, but a passport, driver's license, or identification card from Mexico would not be?
Yeah, let me explain.
He answered that.
The answer to that is that the law in Arizona regarding permissible forms of identification for alcohol purchases includes the licenses and identification cards from the United States and Canada, but does not include licenses and identification cards from Mexico. The premise of the question that you asked is incorrect, and I misread the statute and I tried to correct it this morning. A passport from any country is a valid form of ID to buy alcohol in Arizona, and it's also a valid form of ID to buy cigarettes and tobacco products under this ordinance. So what we're doing is essentially making the forms of ID in this ordinance exactly the same as the forms of ID that are acceptable for alcohol. So clerks don't have to, they can use the same training that they use for alcohol is this, and the licenses that they see in alcohol purchase are exactly the same as what they'll see in cigarettes.
So it is acceptable?
It is. It conforms with section 4241 of the Arizona law.
Councilman Kosaczek.
So we're talking about Paul Cunningham's substitute motion of $200 in 24 months. Chris just clarified that that $300 is really simply the cost of doing business to allow for one visit per year. The $200 drops that down by a third, and then if you, in addition to that, limit this to 24 months, you're just taking all the teeth out of the law that, and they're minimal anyway, frankly, that exist under what Paul Durham has suggested and that I seconded. The statute is, and with respect to the questions about people trying to game the system and slip under the radar screen and sell this stuff anyway, in sections B and C of the ordinance, there are very clearly different levels of penalties. And if you're selling, whether it's tobacco or vape products without a license, the first violation is within 36 months is a $1,000 fine. It doubles from with a license, and then the second one is $1,500 and a 6-month suspension. So
and that's if you don't have a license.
That's without a license. And so if someone wants to come in and try and slip by, then we have within the ordinance itself, a very clear set of guidelines that says that we're going to up the ante on you and hit you hard. So there's an encouragement within the ordinance to come in and apply for the license.
So Councilman Cunningham, I want to pass a T21 statute tonight, as I think we all do. I have the same concern that Councilmember Kosaczek has.
So let me answer your question really quick. I will definitely entertain a friendly amendment to make the look-back period for selling without a license 36 months.
Well, that's already in Durham's motion.
Yeah. So here's where I'm coming from. The concern about the price of the license, and I think this is right. And in Circle K and Mr. Little's stores, I think Circle K has 100 stores. Okay, they're going to go up $200. That's $20,000. Okay, you know what? If the AHA or whoever was right about that, they're making $5.76 off tobacco. That's the price of it. And I get the concern about the smaller stores, but those are one or two people, so they're going to pay an extra $200 total. So, and I don't want to take all the teeth out of this thing. I can just tell you from my perspective, I'm willing to look at the 3624, but I can't. I'm going to have a hard time voting yes to take the teeth out of it on both angles. And I think I would prefer, I might be wrong about this, but I think I'd prefer to do and I'd looked at Councilman Durham and Councilman Romero and everybody else.
All you're doing with the 36 to 24, the $300 is one time a year.
No,
You drop that back to 24. I mean, and let's speak to the issue of of this loss of revenue, this alleged loss of revenue. Who's going to jump lines from the city to the county? It's people who are under 21. They're not losing all of their revenue. If I'm 35 years old, I'm going to go to the Circle K within the city limits. I don't have to go to the county.
Well, and I'm not going
but I wanted to speak to that point because it was made a couple of times. The retailers within the city are not losing all of their cigarette sales. They're losing all of the cigarette sales that we're saying should be illegal. And secondly, with respect to education, and I understand the concern, but what are we educating our clerks? Read the sign that says you have to be 21, you're educated. That doesn't take a 50-page manual to figure that out. It's pretty damn simple.
Okay, anybody else? We've got a substitute motion and a second.
Did you accept Mr. Cunningham's other alternative?
That would be Mr. Fimbres would have to accept it.
You want to just change the month back to 36 months?
Well, for the people that are unlicensed, absolutely.
That doesn't, I don't think that changes the
people that are.
I thought that was part of the motion anyway.
Yeah, that was part of the motion. Just call for the question.
So what is the final agreed?
Let's vote the substitute
What's on the
motion
table?
first.
Which is what? 24 months
to
and
make it 3624 and to reduce the fee from 300 to 200.
Would you consider bringing the fee up to 300 and then put it to 24?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're at 300 going once, and then we have 24 months also included as a change. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Mayor.
The second accepted?
Hold on.
Was that accepted by the second?
The second has to accept it in order for it to be reported.
I'm not going to accept that.
Okay.
I have a lot of small
So that is not.
in my ward that.
I'll second the motion if the seconder doesn't accept it.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second.
So the motion is 300 with the 24-month look back only for the retailers and
Okay,
not
so I have to stop you because to amend the substitute motion, it has to be the motion maker and the person who seconded that motion. So you can't have a different second to accept the amendment. So right now you have a substitute motion that is the original ordinance, but with a 24-month look back instead of 36 and a $200 fee instead of 300. And there's been no amendment accepted to that motion.
I'll withdraw that motion.
Okay.
You want to start again?
Want to start again?
No, let's vote on Durham's.
No, let's vote on Durham's.
Okay. So Durham's is 336. All right. Any other discussion on 336? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody saying nay?
Nay.
All right, that motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 8.
Zoning C91908 Johnson East 22nd Street, SR to RX1, City Manager's Report, Direct Ordinance Adoption, Report from City Manager, Ordinance number 11700.
City Manager's Communication number 354, dated October 22, is received and made part of the record. It is a request to rezone approximately 3.52 acres from SR to RX1 zoning. The rezoning site is located on the south side of 22nd Street west of Melpomene Way. The zoning examiner recommends approval of RX1 zoning. Staff recommends approval of RX1 zoning and adoption of the ordinance. Is the applicant or representative present?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, Michael Marks, MJM Consulting, representing the owners of the subject property.
Is your client agreeable to the proposed requirements?
We are agreeable to all the conditions.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, you request to read ordinance 11700 by number and title only.
Ordinance number 11700 relating to zoning, amending zoning district boundaries in the area located on the south side of 22nd Street, approximately 1,040 feet west of Melpomene Way in case C91908 Johnson, East 22nd Street, SR to RX1, and setting an effective date.
What's the council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the request for rezoning as recommended by the zoning examiner and pass and adopt ordinance number 11700.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Ordinance 11700 passes by a vote of 7-0. Let's move on to item 9.
Zoning C91909, Addis, East 22nd Street, SR to RX1, City Manager's Report, Direct Ordinance Adoption, Report from City Manager, Ordinance number 11701.
City Manager's Communication number 355, dated October 22, is received into and made part of the record. There's a request to rezone approximately 3.5 acres from SR to RX1 zoning. The rezoning site is located on the south side of 22nd Street, west of Melpomene Way. The zoning examiner recommends approval of RX1 zoning. Staff recommends approval of RX1 zoning and adoption of the ordinance. Mr. Marks, I think this is you again.
Yeah, it's Michael Marks, and we are agreeable to all the rezoning conditions.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, your request to read ordinance 11701 by number and title only.
Ordinance number 11701 relating to zoning, amending zoning district boundaries in the area located on the south side of 22nd Street, approximately 775 feet west of Melpomene Way in case C91909, Addis, East 22nd Street, SR to RX1, and setting an effective date.
What's the council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the request for rezoning as recommended by the zoning examiner and pass and adopt ordinance number 11701.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Ordinance 11701 passes by a vote of 7-0. Item 10.
Zoning C151902, establishing original city zoning for the Raytheon West Annexation District, County CI2 to City I2, ordinance adoption, extension of Airport Environ Zone Overlay, report from City Manager, report from Zoning Examiner, ordinance number 11702.
City Manager's Communication number 351, dated October 22, is received into and made part of the record. This is a request to establish original city zoning within the Raytheon West Annexation District. The district includes approximately 22.5 acres located near Nogales Highway and Arrow Park Boulevard. The zoning examiner and staff recommend approval of I2 zoning and extension of the Airport Environ Zone overlay within the Raytheon West Annexation District. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read ordinance 11702 by number and title only.
Ordinance number 11702 relating to zoning, establishing original city zoning in the area located to the east of Nogales Highway, immediately east of the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way and south of a line located 50 feet north of the construction center line of Arrow Park Boulevard in case C151902, Raytheon West Annexation District, County CI2 to City I2, and setting an effective date.
What's the council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the request for original city zoning as recommended by the zoning examiner and pass and adopt ordinance 11702.
Got a motion and second. Any further discussion on this matter? Let's go to roll call.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek?
Aye.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Ordinance 11702 passes by a vote of 7-0. Item 11.
Economic Development, Notice of Intent to Enter into a Tax Incentive Development Agreement with Pueblo Center Partners, LP. Report from City Manager, Resolution Number 23107.
City Manager's Communication number 353, dated October 22, is received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you request to read Resolution 23107 by number and title only.
Resolution Number 23107 relating to economic development, approving a notice of intent to enter into a tax incentive development agreement with Pueblo Center Partners, LP, and adopting an independent economic analysis relating to the agreement.
What's the council's pleasure?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, ever since the economy forced Hotel Arizona to close, it's been an eyesore at our gateway, and the TCC has been having to scramble to find hotel rooms for its events. As the market improved, we saw private dollars help kickstart the AC Marriott. We now have 2 or 3 other hotels either in the ground or in design. And each one of those needed some incentive help to get the private lenders to the table. None of those incentive packages were the Garfield-Traub $200 million backstopping debt that we voted down back in 2010. We've seen several proposals from this group. The message has always been that you're not going to get any incentives that are beyond what others have gotten. And tonight we have such a package. It's an 8-year incentive that will help the flag reach stabilization. That incentive is capped at $1.8 million. And during that time, the direct revenues back to the city will exceed $12 million. There will also be a $4.5 million ongoing property sales and bed tax benefit back to the city. The construction time frame for this will time well with the La Placita project and also the completion of 2 other new downtown hotels. And with that, it will build on the $65 million investment that Rio Nuevo is making into the TCC. So it shows that our patience is paying off. And with that, I would move that we approve this package.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mr. Kozaczek?
Yes.
Ms. Romero? Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Resolution 23107 passes by a vote of 7-0. Item 12.
Adjournment?
Council stand adjourned. Next regularly scheduled meeting will be on Wednesday, November 6th at 5:30 p.m. in the Mayor and Council chambers. Thank you.